States began held at the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The convention of a number of states having, at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as existing the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure of the beneficent end of its institution. Resolved by the Senate of House Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, the 2/3 of both houses concurring that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of several states as the amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. So we got as the first article this one. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. This article perhaps is the most important because this protects the most important aspect of liberty, which are freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of petition to the government. And as a second article, we got a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This article, as it says, refers to, because there are people like criminals who bear guns in an illegal way, and some people argue that the government has to control the sale of guns, and other people argue that the control of guns is something illegal, and this violates the second article.
The Third Amendment is, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in manner to be prescribed by law. This means that a soldier cannot be quartered in a house without the owner's consent. A soldier cannot be held in somebody's house during peacetime. This is a time without war. An example of this would be if a soldier, for example, now in the United States, when there's no war present at the moment, were to go and ask for quartering at somebody's house and the owner agrees, this cannot be done. The Fourth Amendment is protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. This is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Shall not be violated, and no one shall be issued but upon probable cause. Supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This means that a person, for example a cop, cannot go into a suspect's house without a warrant using probable cause. Probable cause is the good reason for you to go and search. Any evidence seized without a warrant cannot be used in a court of law against the defendant. Another law that comes in hand with this would be stop and frisk used by cops. The reason for this is, if a cop were to stop somebody based on prejudice, the person has the right to sue the office with the use of discrimination.
The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States is as so. Prohibits abuse of governmental authority and legal procedures. Establishes rules for indictment by eminent domain and grand jury. Guarantees due process rights, and protects citizens from self-incrimination. The Fifth Amendment focuses particularly on the rights of the accused, such as everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Also, in a case where someone is being charged for a crime and the punishment is death, a grand jury must look at the charges beforehand and look at what they could possibly do before someone is brought to trial. Also, it guarantees against self-incrimination, and that goes hand in hand with the right to remain silent. For example, if you're being arrested, the right to remain silent is yours, because if not, anything you say will be held against you in a court of law. Therefore, if you say something that can get you into trouble, you self-incriminate yourself. You have the right to remain silent until you get a lawyer appointed to you, or you choose your lawyer. Also, due process of law, which states that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property. And the government must follow legal actions before proceeding with any cases. Eminent domain is pretty much stating that the government must pay you to take over your property for public use. That's the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States as so. Guarantees fair and speedy trial and the rights to know the accusation, the accuser, and to find witnesses. The Sixth Amendment pretty much guarantees you a fair and speedy trial in the sense that everyone deserves to be, no court case should be postponed and hold you in jail for a long period of time, regardless of whatever it is. When they say provide you a fair and speedy trial, it means that an impartial jury, which is free of bias, regardless of sex, religion, or race, is to be in the court area, and it is held in the area in which the crime was committed. Also, a defendant must be able to question witnesses and ask witnesses to testify on his behalf. And lastly, the most important part of the Sixth Amendment is that you have the right to a lawyer, and if you cannot afford one, you are to be appointed a lawyer.
The Seventh Amendment of the United States Constitution says, in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. So according to the Seventh Amendment, it says that it codifies the right to a jury trial in certain civil cases and inhibits court from overturning a jury's finding in fact. Basically, ensures citizens to have the right to have a court hear their case on a federal level by a jury consisting of their peers. In other words, it gives a United States individual the right to have a jury trial. The Eighth Amendment of the United States Constitution says, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. So basically, this amendment is about the treatment of criminals. It's meant to safeguard Americans against excessive punishments. It prevents the government from holding criminals for a long period of time simply by imposing high bails. Punishments must be fair and not cruel for any criminal in the United States. And in other words, it was written to protect those accused of a crime from extended punishment that the crime is not deserving of.
Unlike the previous 8 amendments, which specifically mention rights provided to the people of the United States, the 9th and 10th Amendment talks about explicit rights, while rights are not necessarily mentioned. The 9th Amendment states, and I quote, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." Basically, the 9th Amendment talks about enumerated rights. Enumerated rights are rights that are not necessarily written down, but they still exist. The 9th Amendment was put into the U.S. Constitution on September 5th, 1789, and was voted on by 9 out of the 12 states on December 15, 1791. When James Madison first introduced the 9th Amendment, he mentioned how this bill, this amendment, was made so that the government, it would make the government weak, because before then, the government had too much power, and the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, they were afraid that if the government gained too much power, it would be like Great Britain. Today, the 9th Amendment is used to stop the government from expanding rather than limiting its power. The 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution states, and I quote, "The power not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." It basically mentions that states not given to the federal government belong to the people or to the states. It was put into the U.S. Constitution on September 5th, 1789, and was signed by 9 out of the 12 states on December 15, 1791. When James Madison first introduced the 10th Amendment, he explained how many of the states were eager to ratify it. At first, they thought that the 10th Amendment was useless because it didn't really mention anything new. But after, the states signed it and it became a law. In the Supreme Court, there have been very few cases that actually used the 10th Amendment. The only instances when the 10th Amendment is used is when the federal government imposes a law upon the states and the states say, oh, we don't have to follow that law because according to the 10th Amendment, there's no need for us to follow these laws.
With the 10 Bill of Rights that we all stated, it is important that you are always aware of the rights that you can use and that you cannot use. In today's day and age, in the society we live in, there are many factors that will save us when it comes to knowing our rights. So it is important that you're aware of 1 through 10 specifically. These type of rights can save you in situations where you shouldn't be in or where you're unfortunately in. You can be falsely imprisoned or falsely discriminated, and these type of things can save your life from either life or death or from just being accused for the wrong thing. Well, with that said, it's important that you always stay aware, stay informed, and remember your rights.
Yo, it's the Bill of Rights, it's the Bill of your rights. It's time to take your knowledge up to unfamiliar heights. The thrill of your life, just like riding a bike. You never gonna forget the Bill of Rights. The right to free speech and religion and press are guaranteed by Amendment 1. Amendment number 2 says it's true that it's all up to you if you choose to possess a gun. The government can't force you to house and feed a soldier, says Amendment number 3. Amendment number 4, we adore, says without a warrant, your stuff can't be searched or seized. Yo, it's the Bill of Rights, it's the Bill of your rights. It's time to take your knowledge up to unfamiliar heights. The thrill of your life, just like riding a bike. You never gonna forget the Bill of Rights. Yo, it's the Bill of Rights, it's the Bill of your rights. It's time to take your knowledge up to unfamiliar heights. The thrill of your life, just like riding a bike. You never gonna forget the Bill of Rights. Amendment number 5 says the court can't try ya with evidence they already used. It also says that nobody can make ya self-incriminate. You're allowed to stay silent if you choose. Amendment number 6 won't let the criminal clock tick. The rights of the accused continue here. And then Amendment number 7 gives you 1 plus 11, a trial by a jury of your peers. If it's cruel and unusual punishment, it's ruled out by Amendment 8. Amendment number 9 says that other rights are fine, and 10 gives the rest to the states. Yo, it's the Bill of Rights, it's the Bill of your rights. It's time to take your knowledge up to unfamiliar heights. The thrill of your life, just like riding a bike. You never